Hi, it's Matt here. So in this video I'm going to look at the true running cost of the Tesla Model S here. This is a 2014 Model S 85 kilowatt hour, and over the last 2 months I've done 2,500 miles, and I'm going to look at what that has cost me in electricity. So a few weeks ago I made a similar video on our Hyundai Ioniq electric and what it cost to charge that, and because we charge that purely at home on cheap rate nighttime electricity, for £20 of electricity we can get 2,200 miles from that car. So I'll put a link in the top of the screen there, and also in the video description below if you want to watch that video. But as I hinted on that video, this car is considerably cheaper, and I'll explain why. So this car is a 2014 Model S. It's 8 years old now, out of warranty, and it's now done 112,253 miles, and in the last 2 months, that's August and September 2022, I have done 2,500 miles in this car, and the total cost of doing that in electricity and charging has been nothing, absolutely zero. So many of you will know that these early Teslas have free supercharging on the Tesla supercharging network, and let's just call that up. And as you probably know, there's various supercharging sites scattered around the country where you get free charging on these older Teslas. That is, vehicles up to 2016, they had free supercharging for life, and that's transferable with subsequent owners as well. Some very early 2017 cars have it as well. However, you're only really going to take advantage of that when you're doing the long distance driving. When you're just driving around locally, you're not really going to want to go to a supercharger all the time, unless you have one fairly local, of course. But Tesla do discourage that, and there is a clause in the terms that if you're frequently charging at your local supercharger site near your home, they will withdraw it from you. So you've got to be a bit careful. However, I haven't done all that 2,500 miles by using the free supercharging network. So a bit of background really. I've recently moved house, and previously we were charging our cars on Octopus Go cheap rate nighttime electricity, and we did all our charging at 5p a kilowatt hour. And our Hyundai Ioniq, even though I filmed that a couple of weeks ago, that is still the case because that's at my partner's house. We've both, divorced, kids, 2 houses, you know the story. So primarily that car is charged at Mel's house, and this car is charged at mine. So I've currently lost Octopus Go because I've moved. I've now got a smart meter installed at the new premises, but as of yet Octopus Go hasn't been enabled, so I'm still paying very high electricity prices like everyone else. So I was previously paying 14p peak and 5p off peak at the old premises. I moved this year, and suddenly my peak electricity rate went from 14p to 28, and then it went up to 34, and now it's at 35 or 36p like everyone else. And that's primarily stopped me charging the car at home, because I would have normally done all my charging at home at night, and just did a little bit every night, and over the week I could manage, apart from when I was doing those long distance drives, I could manage just doing 4 hours of charging a night, and that would suit, do me. But at these new electricity prices, I've stopped charging this car until Octopus Go comes back, and because they've been very busy and there's been all these price changes, they haven't enabled me, and they're now blaming they can't read the smart meter, and there's lots of emails back and forwards. But anyway, I haven't been in a rush. So during the last 2 months, I have purposely not charged the vehicle at home, and I've just seen whether I can survive charging the vehicle using Tesla superchargers, but also other public chargers. And I've been doing a bit of a test to see if I can only use the free chargers, and seeing if I could survive. And I've now done 2,500 miles, 2 months, and not spent a bean on electricity. So at some point in the next few weeks, Octopus Go will be enabled at the new premises, and I'll go back to nighttime charging at the new rate of 7.5p a kilowatt hour. But let's just explain now what I've done over the last 2 months and how I've covered 2,500 miles without spending a penny. So looking at my Google timeline, we can see in August I did quite a lot of miles. First off, we went to Keswick in the Lake District, and we had a few days away, and we charged twice on the way up, and we stayed at a hotel that had destination charging. And I purposely went to this hotel because they had 3 chargers that were free, so we charged every night when we were at the hotel. We started every day with a full battery pack, and we did a lot of driving over the 3-4 days we were in the lakes, and that didn't cost any money. And then again on the way down, we charged once on the way down. I've done a video about that journey actually, if you want to watch that on the channel. So that was a big chunk of that month's mileage, was going up to the lakes and back. But also I was over in Gloucester, I was at Tetbury, I was also in Staines on the side of the M25 in London. That's a regular trip I have to make. I was down Basingstoke way, and as you can see, I did quite a bit of miles in that month. I did about 1,500 miles. Google was saying I did about 54 hours of driving. I visited 31 cities, 57 places, and did all of that without costing a bean. And then we jumped to my September's Google timeline, and we can see again I did get around a bit. I went to 19 cities, 57 places. I did approximately 900 miles, 37 hours of driving, and went as far as Leicester, went to Swindon, went to Reading, again another trip or 2 to Staines. I think I probably went there 2 or 3 times. Went to Heathrow, charged at those the Tesla chargers at Heathrow Terminal 5. But yeah, as you can see, 900 miles, still a pretty decent amount of miles, and again, didn't cost me anything. So I suspect many of you, I can just see the comments now, getting really annoyed and saying, yes, of course, you got a Tesla and you get free electricity on Tesla charging network, and getting very annoyed that I might be sort of boasting about that. That's not what this video is about. A lot of the long distance driving was utilising these Tesla superchargers, which I admit. And it's great owning an older car. That's why I bought an older car, an older Tesla, to take advantage of that free supercharging. I would just say there were about 5,000 of these Teslas in the UK that have that free supercharging, somewhere between 4,800 and 5,000 cars. I've looked it up. So yeah, there's quite a few people that do have that facility with their older Teslas. But that was only a proportion of that driving. A lot of it I was using local chargers at shopping centres, retail parks, or anywhere I went and I stopped. If there was a charger there and it was free, I plugged into it. And that's where a bulk of my local trips has been charged from. And of course, these are available to everyone. So obviously we had that hotel charging up in Keswick. But we've also charged in the Westgate shopping centre, Oxford. Been there many times. You have to pay for the parking, but while you're there we get free charging, so we do utilise that. And obviously when you're shopping, you're going to be spending 2, 3 or maybe 4 hours in the city, so you can get a decent charge there. And I always try to plug into the 22 kilowatt chargers there. There are 50 chargers in the underground car park at the shopping centre. 3 of them are 22 kilowatt chargers, and the other 47 are 7 kilowatt chargers. So when I go, I try to plug in the 22 charger, and this car will charge at 11 kilowatt. So that's 3 phase. 3 phases, 11 and 22. So you're going to get a bit more power for every hour you're charging. So we've done that many times. We've also charged in Didcot at the Orchard Shopping Centre. There's a Pod Point charger there. While we've done a bit of shopping, gone to the supermarket, or we've also been to the chicken place, what's that called? Nando's. First time I've been to a Nando's. My children took me to a Nando's. So a charge there while that was only about an hour in Nando's, but we got a bit of a charge in that instance. And then at Staines, at Two Rivers Shopping Centre, again, that's a meeting point I use to pick up my other daughter. And sometimes I use the chargers, other times I don't. But if I'm going to be there for a while, I'll go to the shopping centre. Again, you've got to pay for parking. But there's, again, a Pod Point charger there, 7 kilowatt. and particularly if I'm going to eat, I plug in, and free charging there as well. So the theme is here, generally you get that free charging in shopping centres and retail parks, because while you're plugged in and charging, you're going to be off spending money in their shops. So whether that's always going to be free, I don't know, because electricity is obviously costing them more now than what it used to. But at the moment, there's still many sites around the country, generally it is in retail parks and shopping centres, where you still get free electricity. So obviously I've been utilising that, and over the last 2 months I've managed to do all my charging without spending any money. It has been a little bit more work, I've had to think about it a little bit, but I haven't gone out of my way. I haven't charged at a Tesco's, for example, yet. I haven't changed where we shop in the supermarkets. Our local supermarket I go to, there aren't any chargers, so I could have driven to the next town and used one where there are, but I haven't bothered with that. But where there has been chargers where we have wanted to go, I have charged, and for, as you can see, for 2 months, 2,500 miles, it's worked. But as I said, I've had to put a little bit more effort into it. But once the Octopus Go is enabled at the new premises, then I won't be doing that so much. I will go back to charging overnight, but for the last 2 months, I have proved that it can be done, and if I wanted to be particularly tight, I could continue doing this and have completely free motoring. The reason why I'm not going to is to completely run this car with the sort of mileage I do, which is generally 1,000 miles a month. I am having to go off to the local supercharger probably once a week, about once a week, once every 10 days or so, and charge. And that does involve sitting there for about half an hour to 45 minutes, because this is a slow charging EV, being an older one. And it does involve driving off one evening or so to go and do that charge. And once I've got cheap rate charging at home, I'm not going to bother doing that. But when it's free fuel, it's not much of an effort to go out and do that. And I'm sure, you know, many diesel drivers might be commenting now and saying, well, I don't have to go and do that with my diesel car. Well, of course you don't, but if there was a petrol station somewhere giving free fuel, you would soon drive off and sit there. Even if they were dribbling it out of the pump, you would sit there to get your free fuel, so it's no different really with your EV. So sometimes if I've got the spare time, I will go off and charge, but going forward over the next few months, I will probably stop that bit and just take advantage of free charging when I'm out and about at those locations. But I won't be going off during the week to do it. I'll just revert back to how I was doing it before, and just charging on cheap rate nighttime tariffs. But obviously this has the advantage of being an older Tesla. It's got that free lifetime supercharging. So that's why the value of these older cars is just shooting up, and I've done a video about that on the channel as well, so the link for that is below if you want to watch that one. But obviously I haven't done all my charging on the Tesla network, and it just goes to show it is still possible to run an EV incredibly cheaply, particularly if you can charge from home. But let's say you're retired and you just use a car to do a few miles every week, running around, going to the shops. You could still run your EV for no cost at all if you can charge while you're utilising shopping centres and retail parks. But anyway, certainly there's an advantage if you can charge from home. They're still incredibly cheap cars to run, and you don't have to believe all these recent press stories that electric cars now cost more to run than petrol or diesel. It's a load of rubbish. With electric cars, you have a choice where to charge them. Some places are expensive. If you have to completely rely on DC rapid charging, then yes, pence per mile has now gone up hugely, and it can cost more to run an EV than a petrol or diesel. But of course you don't do all your charging on expensive DC rapid charging sites, and if you can charge from home, then you're going to do most of your charging at home. And even better, if you can charge on a cheap rate overnight tariff, it's still absolutely peanuts to run an EV. And if you're willing to put the effort in and hunt out those cheap chargers, then yes, it's still possible to run an EV for free. But anyway, that's it for this video. If you found this useful, please do click that thumbs up button on YouTube. That really does help other people find the channel. Do subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you on the next video.